Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video we're going to be talking about two very exciting characters. One of them is of course released very early 1.1. We are having a rerun now, a very strong offensive support like Silverwolf, but now with the new Ruan Mei coming out, which one is better? Which is actually better for your account in a different situations? We're going to be talking about it, which is the better investment if you were a person to pull either one of these characters right now. Now, whenever we talk about investment value, what I always like to start off first is the current value of these units if you are adding it to your account. There's no point buying something for the future if you are struggling and you need content to clear now. Let's talk about how these two characters will impact your account right now. Let's start first with the easier one to talk about since she's already more familiar, Silverwolf. I think the key benefit of Silverwolf is on top of having a lot of stuff in a kit like defense shredding, you have rest pen, single target debuffs, all in one kit. She also drops weakness breaks in the enemy or dropping enemy weaknesses. So that allows you to have a very wide ability to tackle a lot of content with a very small roster. For example, you are running mono quantum with her, you can pretty much drop in weaknesses onto everyone. You can get a lot of content. With the new jades that's coming out, quantum destruction likely can combo with her very well. So even though you don't have Zealer, you can probably find a lot of value in this character, Silverwolf 2, with a character like Sherman, with a character like Doctor Ratio, new characters which we will talk about in other videos on the channel too. I still think she's very relevant now and in the next patch or next half of this patch of 1.6, super useful. Current value of Ruan Mei on the other hand, which is definitely a new character, so a lot of people are definitely interested to know some of the thoughts on this character. I think she's an insanely strong character. This character does a lot. The only other character in the game that I think does more than her from a same role probably will be Fucc, but she's probably, in my opinion, like just under Fucc in terms of her overall utility and her kit. Is she a must pull? If Fucc was a must pull, I would say she's close but not quite because of the competition, but we'll talk about alternatives in a little bit. I have full respect for this character, very strong unit. She does damage buffing, she does weakness break efficiency increase for your whole comm, she does a lot of damage from break efficiency, she buffs their speed, what else does she do? She buffs damage, she even rest pens the enemy. The rest pen is so crazy that people were actually thinking of getting E6 Luota for that team-wide rest pen on the enemy, which she can do very well. So at E0, so you save a lot of money, get that rest pen, and that Luota E6 we have given, very fantastic. And she is basically a E0 S0, not even like considering any signature like cone or whatsoever, and she really offers so much value to the entire team. I think it's amazing. Of course, being Ice Harmony means that she adds a new element to the Harmony class, because we currently don't have any other Ice Harmony units, allowing us to run maybe mono Ice teams with, for example, Jingliu and Pella. So you can run offensive Ice with a defense shredder like Pella, with a damage buffer, rest pen, and etc. There's so many things that she feels. Very amazing unit so far, and I think that's her current value that she has. She can fit the most teams right now. Most meta teams that we have, likely she will fit. The largest thing that I want to talk about her, which is probably like the biggest reason why she isn't my top pick of all characters in the game, is this second part on alternatives. Whenever we talk about investing money or investing our Stellar Jade premium currency into a certain thing, we always want to know what are the other options out there. Maybe there are cheaper options in a 4-star or standard characters, and this is the case for Ruan Mei, which the person that's stopping her from being absolute number one probably will be like these two units here, Bronya and Tingyun. Sure, I understand that a lot of people might say, but these two units are very different. One buffs action advance, one buffs attack. They are slightly different, some energy restoration. But by and large, you can run both in a team. I'm not saying you can't, but if you're talking about just running one Harmony in a roster because you want a more balanced core, maybe with one Nihility, one Harmony, so that you get a more able to tackle more content. In that case, the question will be, do you want to give up your action advance for a character like Bronya, who immediately pushes you up, has a team-wide crit damage buff, and do you want to, for example, give up your free-to-play option, which is Tingyun, buffs a lot of attack, buff a lot of, for example, your energy restoration if you're out. Probably between the two, Tingyun is like slightly easier to give up, but still you're pulling like a whole limited character right now. That means you might have to give up one like Doctor Ratio in the second half, or you give up Silverwolf, or you even, if you are hopefully not super unlucky, give up like Black Swan, the character that's just been dripped, and so on and so forth. So a lot of things that we need to consider whenever we are talking about alternatives, and Bronya is a very strong alternative for the Harmony class. But granted, you can run each one in one side. I think that is an excellent option also. I'm definitely going to be looking forward to this character as an alternative. for my Harmony roster. Probably going to be playing her quite a lot too. The other thing is her break effect efficiency increase and rest pen nature has almost no alternatives all in one kit. There's no other character in the game right now that increases weakness break efficiency of her team. She does this very insane. She extends the duration of weakness breaking, which is ridiculously strong as well. No other character does that, similar to how Silverwolf is the only character in the game that currently is able to drop in weaknesses. But of course, with characters like Shui coming into the game, does show the developers have an intention to maybe shift the direction a bit, have colorless breakers or characters that don't care about what the weakness is, and these characters do benefit a lot more from characters like Ruanmei compared to Silverwolf as well, and that is for current value, the topics that I want to talk about. I think in terms of current game state, both of them are definitely very strong. You might find more value as a new player with Silverwolf because she increases your damage, or if you are lacking that DPS check, you have you drop in weaknesses on the enemy, meaning that you can tackle more content quicker. I think Silverwolf is more excellent for early game, very out of the bat new player that doesn't have too many characters. Ruanmei, on the other hand, I think starts to outperform significantly as the game goes by, and you have more characters being built. You're starting to tackle maybe MOC 10, 11, 12, the deeper floors, and you have more than one main team. You can swap out your main DPS for another main DPS of a different element if needed. These kind of players likely will feel a lot more value in terms of current game state for Ruanmei compared to Silverwolf, and that is in the current game state. Now that we've talked about the current value of these two characters, I think what's interesting to consider is moving forward. What do we see in the future, in the near future as well? The main downside, in my opinion, of Silverwolf, and don't get me wrong, I think she's an amazing character overall, but the key downside of her is, let's say you started the game with one character, you feel her strength straight away. She helps put in weaknesses on the enemies, but as you start getting later into the game, you start pulling another DPS, you pull another DPS, you pull another DPS, so on and so forth. Your roster starts to become very broad, and the weakness dropping of Silverwolf will start to decline slightly. And a lot of us might actually feel that a character like Pella can do a lot of what Silverwolf can do, and we might as well just go for the 4-star alternatives instead of Silverwolf, if especially we are looking for other characters in future. And that, I think, is like the main key downside of Silverwolf. Not because she's a bad character by any means, but it's because the nature of a kit generally favors and tilts towards newer players a bit more than later game players. It's the inevitability of like resource inefficiency. As you go late game, you have more characters, you just have more teams to choose from because you've been playing longer, accumulating more resources. This character declines in value over time, and that, I think, is very important to know in terms of like future value of characters. One thing to note, of course, with new characters that are coming in the quantum space, definitely do still benefit from her a lot, because even though she is no longer as usable in other team compositions with, for example, you want to run a mono element or something like that with ice and stuff, she's still going to be probably one of the best in slot for a mono quantum team. The fact that she's able to implant quantum weaknesses on the enemy reliably, you can really scale super well. And that is, I think, super interesting. Now, there's another bad thing that I want to talk about, but let's jump over to Ruanmei first, and I just want to share like some future opinions or what I think this character will become over time. One of the game state right now that is totally untouched, like super neglected, if you realize, we have follow-up characters like Topaz, Nambi, we have Dr. Ratio, all these, like the new follow-up set all coming in. So that is not really the area that Hoyoverse is going to expand on, but we can now see that this is the first time that they care about weakness breaking, be it extending the weakness break or increasing its efficiency or some form of weakness break multipliers here and there. She's the first character that they have shown since the release of new characters to actually enter this field. On top of that, even though she's not really like super only good for break effect, she's good for a whole other reason: rest pen, damage, speed buff, so many other things that we can talk about. But basically, I think she's a hedge to anything that goes in that field of anything to do with like break effect increase. You want the enemy's break effect to be broken longer as well. All these kind of things, she plays into that whole entire field if that is how the winds are turning, and that is my opinion of future value of this character. She scales well regardless of team comp that you put. She plays very well into DOT teams because she buffs damage, she buffs pen, she buffs speed, which DOT teams, like for example any Kafka related team, you likely will find a lot of value with that as well. So that's the first type of teams. You will likely find a lot of value with crit rate, crit damage teams. The typical like hyper carry kind of style will likely feed very well into it. Follow-up teams, any teams that's focusing on like follow-up attacks, also I think is super good. And even teams that are very, very slow, for example, doesn't like speed at all, doesn't really care too much about action advance, she plays into that as well because it's rest pen, damage increase, and only a slight speed increase, but a weakness break efficiency and stuff. You can play into like break effect teams eventually. Let's say you wanted to play Argentina as break effect, you wanted to play Susang as break effect, or maybe fire characters like Himiko as break effect. All of these she can play into. Tons of future value. I think the possibilities are endless with this unit. The question is, who are you going to replace in that slot? Bronya, on the other hand, to compare real quick, doesn't even offer you this wide of a roster. The flexibility definitely Ruan Mei offers you this option, and that's, I think, like her future value super amazing. And now, like, we talk about the one side, let's jump back in terms of like Silver Wolf on the other aspect of things. With the introduction of Xue and her ability to like so-called colorless break the enemy, colorless breaking means that not caring about the weaknesses that the enemy has, in a way is trying to signal to us players that there is likely a chance that a 5-star limited character might come out in future that maybe all their attacks, like maybe the talent passive is ignore enemy weaknesses totally and just break their toughness anyway. In that case, a character like Silver Wolf will diminish in value very quickly, and I guess this is the lead into a more speculative part, which is what I would call like potential, because the chances of it happening is a bit grey depending on the success of it, but really in future tense, that is one of the biggest concerns that I have for Silver Wolf. If characters start to ignore elemental weaknesses, and you have characters like Xueyi's ultimate who ignores enemy toughness, it will start to favor Ruan Mei a lot more compared to Silver Wolf because of that colorless breaking. Means that she basically becomes a rest pen, a slight debuffer, and a character, for example, to drop weaknesses which maybe helps drop like quantum weakness to help the set get more defense ignore, the Genius of Brilliant Star set. That's about it. You can pretty much get by with like Pella or Ruan Mei to get either one of those two things. That I think is like the biggest concern I have. A 5-star limited that can do colorless breaking. One of the key downsides to Ruan Mei, I think that is worth mentioning about, that I think a lot of people might not be focusing on, is how good exactly is break effect. For those of you who don't know, Ice break effect and imaginary break effect are probably the most two lackluster break effects out of all of them. There is some break scaling here and there. I talked about it in like my Ice and imaginary break effect guide, where I stacked a lot of break effect on these characters, which I think Ruan Mei likely will do also. And if you want to know more in depth about break effect builds, check out those two specific guides on the elements, and you'll see how break effect scales for these units as well. Then you can see how that she will perform with high levels of break effect. So that is my own opinion. I don't know how break effect is going to scale with her in terms of stat efficiency, because it doesn't do like a lot of damage, but still I think that is probably the only thing. And if, for example, Hoyoverse doesn't go in the direction of building more break effect stuff, maybe they neglect it even more and don't explore that. I think that's one key downside to Ruan Mei, but really not many reasons not to pull on this character, other than maybe you're probably waiting for another character. You can also use her now immediately because she's a very, very solid character. If you need another Bronya, probably you'll find a lot of value with this character. She does a lot, helping you hit like DPS thresholds much quicker too. So that is for this category of potential. The last category that I think is like super important to talk about is the free-to-play kit of both of these characters. Why do I think that free-to-play kit is important is because if you need their signature light cone to hit a level that is equal to the other character, then maybe it's like a two-pronged investment. Like it's already double the investment more or less compared to the other one. So free-to-play kit keeps it neutral in terms of the amount of money that you spend and the amount of like returns that you get back. So let's talk about these two characters at E0, S0 base form. Between the two of them, I think Silver Wolf is slightly more handicapped because of the wide variety of Harmony light cones that are available even for 4-star light cones, and even 3-star ones too. Silver Wolf, on the other hand, if you don't have that event light cone that came out way back in I think version 1.1, her energy restoration is going to feel a little bit lackluster, so you do need to be more mindful about her rotations. Of course, Nihility has a lot of good light cones. They have Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat, which even more defense pen. You have stuff that do damage like Good Night Sleep Well, turning her into like a sub DPS, but the flexibility of those two light cones compared to the Harmony light cones, where you can, for example, run Planetary Rendezvous, the one with Esther's picture on it, to buff same type damage for all ice characters. You don't care about ice characters? Sure, just switch on to Dance, 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 push up your whole team when you use your ultimate. Again, amazing. If you don't want to use that as well, there are so many different options. You can buff damage using the Battle Pass Tingyun Light Cone. You can also buff Break Effect with the one with, I think it is Cocolia's face on it or something like that. That also gives her Break Effect and Energy Restoration. There's a 3-star Mashing Cox, more Energy Restoration there. So tremendous amount of options that you can play. If you want to play her Break Effect, play her Energy Restoration, play her as just a pure Harmony buffer. The flexibility is insane, and you can also have like the Bronya's Light Cone, the standard 5-star Light Cone, which buffs her Energy Restoration, which buffs skill points or so and uses ultimate. Tons of options for her. In my opinion, between both of them, Ruan Mei is definitely the much more simpler character to build. And also, if you're talking about relics to gear, doesn't care too much. Maybe you can just stack the 4-piece set bonus of Break Effect. You stack the 2-piece set bonus Break Effect. I think Talia, Kingdom of Banditry. You already have more or less like 100% Break Effect there. The rest of it can come from substats or her talent passive. But you don't have to stress out too much because everything can found in the main set, the 4-piece, 2-piece bonuses. And I think overall, she's a much easier character to gear, a much easier character to invest in. The flexibility of team comms that you have is super good as well. Silverwolf, on the other hand, does require a little bit more investment to start to see maybe more sub DPS potential. But nonetheless, I think overall, you're comparing two, like one Ferrari and one Lamborghini in total. It's really, at the end of the day, do you see yourself playing this character for the long run? Go for design, go for characters that has longevity, and if you really like pure content teams, I think that is the one place that she still likely is going to outperform, or hunt teams in general, for example with Dr. Ratio and Zealer. This is where Silverwolf will continue to outperform. And so far in this video, I've been especially impartial. I try to have little bias as I can, as I do with all of these videos. And now I'm just going to share with you like my personal thoughts on these two characters, but I think you can kind of tell because it's quite objective. For me personally, I have most characters in the game with the exception of Clara. I still do not have her, and I never used Silverwolf already. I have not touched her since I first pulled her, unless I was doing like one showcase video or the other to make some content. I have not played her at all, didn't see a need to play her. I much rather like bring in a character like Pella right now, as I have more characters. And eventually, as you get more characters, you will start to become more into my shoes, where you have more characters in the game, more choices, and roster depth as well. In that case, if you're choosing between those two characters, I think Ruan Mei for me is the simpler choice. Very easy, almost close to a must pull if it wasn't for the fact that Bronya was so good in the game. She's, in my opinion, just under Fucc in terms of how broken she is. Very strong, can do a lot. What remains to be seen whether there's future upside is, does Hoyoverse keep investing in the break effect section? That I have no idea. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and check out these other videos I think you might be interested in as well. See you in the next video.